Hello guys, I'm David Kaleta and together with Lukáš Svrček we have created a simple indie game named Urtuk the Desolation. And this presentation is our development story. I've split this video into a few chapters, so first is the intro, our first steps, some prototyping, then we go to the development, our releases. We have also prepared some few tips for the newcomers, and then in the end I'll summarize the whole presentation. So let me introduce the team first. I'm the game designer and programmer in this project, and Lukáš has taken care of all the visuals. So that's two of us. Then we have hired a few freelancers to help us with a few graphical assets, animations, music, and copy editing. So let's start with the first steps. Um, the very first concept of Urtuk was authored by me about 6 years ago. I've had rough ideas about the core gameplay. It should be all about turn-based combat with very easy to understand rules. My main goal was to put something new, unseen and unique to the table. Of course, everything about that changed in the course of the development within those 6 years. Um, my workflow with these ideas at that time was just to use pen and paper and draw some simple visuals, try to simulate it as a board game. Uh, I've also made my mind about using the hexagons as tiles for the battlefield and even used quite a popular board game named Catan and their hexagonal paper tiles to simulate my ideas. The visuals, audio, and story and lore, all of this didn't make any significant sense to me, so I have just avoided that altogether. I just wanted to streamline the battle mechanics and make a simple strategy game. And this period did last about 2 months. The next chapter is prototyping. In 2015, I thought it would make more sense now to begin to implement those basic ideas into real playable PC game. So I've grabbed what was available at that time for free game development, making some effort to choose the best platform out there for that particular job. My goal was to make the paper game into a PC game as fast as possible. Urtuk runs now on a free Java game dev library called libgdx. And it was April 2016 when I was quite confident about the core gameplay loop and began to think more about the visuals. For now, I've just used some free internet graphical assets for the game, but I felt I can do much better. So I've begun to search for artists who were similar minded like me. I think I must have been very lucky that I found Lukáš Svrček. I remember chatting with him first time and we just dropped few sentences about my game and its future. And the next day he just wrote, yeah, sure, I can do that. Now that I think of it, no common sense person would agree to that nowadays, right? But we were young. Lukáš and I agreed on the visual stylization based on Mike Magnola's art design, which you can find also in a very popular game named Darkest Dungeon. We also took some inspiration from the character art design of Dark Souls and the Warhammer universe. Many did like it, but there were few, of course, who had hate opinions and calling us Darkest Dungeon stealers. There was some small iteration on the actual art direction, but in the end we kept the style of Urtuk from beginning until the end almost the same. Um, from now on, we had a years-long period of experimenting, prototyping, and playtesting. This process was actually to start simple, test out, confirm that gameplay with that particular feature is fun, and move to just next feature. It took many iterations of the game, and after maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of iterations, Urtuk has become what it is now. And also note that I've discarded maybe 70% of my work, and Lukáš also made big changes and improvements over time. I remember that the second part of the game, the overworld, the campaign map, was recoded and graphically redesigned about 5 times, which is not a small task. Even now, we put a big effort to expand the campaign into new modes. After maybe 3 years, we were quite confident about the core gameplay and its fun factor, and decided to make Urtuk public. For that, we used a free indie game platform called itch.io, and mm, well, we had quite a big success establishing a smaller fan base with that. This was actually another milestone in our game development. With those new minds on board, we had much better feedback, and their suggestions greatly improved the core gameplay. Some of the Urtuk's best mechanics were invented and integrated at that time. Today, our player base is quite active, and honestly, I'm not even capable of tracking all of their suggestions and ideas. But I've realized that it is extremely important to have a loyal, talented, and active player base around your game dev. Alright, let's move to the development phase. Mm, I think that our principles of prototyping and the actual development are very similar. We just like to experiment with new, unique features and put that to a test. And then well, let's see if it's fun, and if yes, we just improve. If not, we discard that feature and move to the next one. It's kind of our own fail fast methodology. The key here is to implement new ideas really fast and study it for future potential. And I don't really mind all the small minor details. Those I will handle later on if that particular feature is good enough in the fun factor. And this process repeats all the development time long. We don't have any deadlines or pressure from a publisher or any shareholder. We are free at our own capability to think at a slow pace, and we actually do what we please. And I think that this process of creating art cannot be expedited. Okay, about our releases now. First, we released a demo of Urtuk on itch.io, and a year later, we released early access on Steam. That was another big milestone for us. It was already quite obvious that Urtuk gained some popularity, and we were quite happy with the Steam release. Our Discord server was booming, and we've got another bunch of new players. The game was already quite streamlined in terms of mechanics, and in the early access phase, we've just improved the game, fixed bugs, balanced it, and also some new content was added. A year later, we released Urtuk as a full release on Steam. The momentum from early access was not that big when we fully released, but still we were quite happy with the results. And for me personally, the overwhelmingly positive Steam reviews was the best. Now, if I think of those results of all releases, um, Lukáš did a terrific job at the art side, and I'm quite sure without him the game would not be this popular. After another 6 months, we released a free DLC with quite a big content addition. The development still goes on, and we already have many new features that we experiment with. exactly the same way as we started the development of Urtuk 5 years ago. And I'm quite happy with this approach, and we probably won't change that in future. All in all, we think that Urtuk got a very good perception amongst players and stands out from the other similar games because of the following. First, there's the stylized 2D graphics, which is quite uncommon and can be found only a very few games. Secondly, the turn-based combat has unique game mechanics and very unseen character progression. Third, um, we have uncommon low magic dark fantasy world with our own invented races and world lore. So we do not have any dragons, elves, fairies, or similar races found in the popular Dungeons and Dragons theme. Fourth, open and active development with other players. And here I think that without our fan base, Urtu could not be that enjoyable and fun as it now. I might also note that regarding marketing, we did not do any. Nevertheless, there were few articles in PC Gamer and other smaller websites, and we also got approached by some major Twitch and YouTube streamers. And I remember one of those even did a very long Let's Play series right after our early access release. I remember my expectations when we first released on Steam based on what I knew about the Steam players. I expected that we will get real hate about the game and nobody will like it. Well, I was very surprised that almost all who bought it, the early access build, were very happy with the state of the game, and many have actually wondered why it is not a full release already. Well, we actually have quite prepared for this phase, and I had already implemented and polished almost 90% of Urtuk. So overall, it was nearly a full game. But as said, I was very skeptical about the Steam release player perception, so me and Lukáš have done some hard work to make Urtuk as finished as possible. So it's worth noting that in our Steam early access period, we only added about 10-15% of new content, but have balanced and improved the game in a great way. I think that now if I would start a new project and try to release it as a Steam Early Access, I would do the same. Make almost a complete game and during the early access period just improve, balance and add a bit of more content. Listen to your community. I think that the first impression is really important to players as well as for the Steam algorithm to feature you care more. Some games like Slay the Spire or Kenshi had a very pure launch, selling only a couple of hundreds of copies over the first month. But as they have improved their game and communicated with the players, they have increased their game potential and over a few years they have become bestsellers. Also, it's worth noting that those two games are really great for streaming, and I personally think that they've gained their popularity mainly because of that. Now, with the releases of Urtuk, as said, we gained many fans, and we have had two main channels of communication, which we are active in: a Discord server and Steam forums. My role, besides programmer and game designer, is also the community manager. So I was quite surprised how active some members were. For example, one guy has created a whole wiki website featuring almost all aspects of Urtuk along with hundreds of screenshots. That of him was a huge task. Um, because even of that time, Urtuk was already quite complex game. Then we had these Russian fans. We didn't know about them, and one day one of them approached me and told me, "Hey David, I have translated your game." I was amazed. And then that happened to the other translations as well. Polish, French, Chinese, all done by our fans and completely out of charge. And they maintain those translations even today. Then we had uh, an extremely capable modder and programmer who just decompiled our build and made some parts moddable via text files. I remember that it would take me weeks to do the same job, and he has just finished that within 2 days. What a talent! All right, let's move to the next section, and it's about tips. We have prepared some few tips which we think are quite um, popular or important. So let me start with that. Mm, I think that nowadays the most important element of an indie game success is to bring something completely new, unseen, and unique to the table. Uh, be it game mechanics, game flow, graphics, whatever. Think out of the box. Just make sure it stands out from the crowd. I would also try to start with a very simple, even rough ideas and implement them as fast as possible. Then decide if it's worth pursuing or discarding and moving to something else. I would not go the 3D graphics route. There's simply too much overhead and maintenance for a small team. The best-selling indie games on Steam are 2D, and it's also worth noting that a good stylized 2D graphics will maintain its aging much better than a realistic 3D graphics. Iterate, iterate, and iterate. Just take a simple idea and step by step make something very fun out of it. I can't imagine creating Urtuk other ways. If you are a programmer or game designer, just like me, give your artists and musicians the freedom. Let them do their job. Um, let them create their art. Um, don't shackle their hands by dictating all the small details. The best assets in Urtuk were authored by a free and unobscured mind. But of course, a general agreed art direction should be maintained. Alright, let me summarize this presentation. Now, regarding the sales and overall profitability of Urtuk and similar niche games, mm, don't get fooled by the amount of Steam reviews. Nowadays, it's very easy to write one, and the Steam application forces you, well, in a friendly way, to write one, even just with a single word. Also, Steam has a generous refund policy, and we have about 20% refund rate. So, summarizing the total length of our development time, all paid bills and contracts, I can really imagine that it's well worth the money for countries like United States, Germany, UK, or any other high living cost country to do a similar project like Urtuk. But for me personally, the biggest success of Urtuk is the overwhelmingly positive feedback from all the players, and that I have achieved a life milestone, something I always wanted to create a great game which I'm really proud of and make it play by thousands of other people worldwide. And that I've learned so much about new and different aspects of game development, like game design, resource and time management, community communication, and also few bits of marketing. I've met new people, similarly minded and childish as I am, and it's very exciting to work together and create something which can last for years. I've also learned that polishing a game up to 100% is extremely time consuming. By that I mean to fix all the bugs, even the rarest and smallest ones, and to make 100% players happy. So we decided we go the 95% route. So let's keep 5% of the non-game breaking, rarest and the most time consuming bugs present in Urtuk, and to make 95% of our player base happy. That's just good enough for us. We think that spending too much time on perfection makes its toll on the scale, content, and the overall quality of a game. Of course, any core gameplay mechanic or feature must work flawlessly. All right, I think that's it. All I have to say in this presentation. Thank you very much for listening.